The Elements of Harmony and Savior of Worlds by RK Striker JK5. Chapter 16. Celestia glanced around as the entire group walked up to the edge of the evergreen forest. Twilight looked up at her. Princess, are you all right? Celestia started and looked down at Twilight, and Spike as he rode on her back. Oh, sorry. She resumed looking around as they stopped a few dozen feet from the grinded trees. I invited Queen Rosas and Flood of Providence here for the birthday party, as well as Morning Glory and her family. Her mind momentarily stopped floating in the air in the non-existent wind. Morning Glory was an old friend, and I was looking forward to her seeing Megan again. Her eyes closed momentarily. She was hurt by a being named Discord. Megan appeared by her side. Discord? Spike spoke up. That doesn't sound like a nice guy. Celestia glanced over from Megan, then to Spike, her expression grim. An ancient evil, the primordial manifestation of chaos incarnate. She glanced over at Luna as he stood by Danny and Pinkie Pie. 1,300 years ago, he emerged to wreak havoc. Luna and I managed to defeat him after a month, but the damage had been done. Her eyes closed. Morning Glory had been tortured by that thing for nearly a week, and Queen Rosas decided the flare ponies should stay in Flare Valley. Megan covered her mouth with her hand, but gasped escaped. My God! She exclaimed. Morning Glory tortured by that thing? She closed her eyes. Discord. The rainbow light? Celestia wrapped a wing around Megan. After a fashion. The bruised and bloodied alicorn circled around Discord, the golden case on her armor opening it up. Time to end this! Celestia yelled, facing the mismatched abomination. Thunder crashed and lightning flashed in the blood-red skies above Paradise City, where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. The casing opened, and the rainbow of light shot forth. Discord held up his hand, and a barrier formed around him. His muzzle tightened into a grimace as the rainbow strobed around him, battering at his protection, but it held firm. As the rainbow weaved off, Discord fired a blast from his lion's paw right arm at Celestia, striking the casing full on. Celestia cried out in equal parts pain and shock as the casing shattered from the initial impact. The rest of the energy washed over her, bolts of lightning playing over her coat, before Celestia tumbled to the ground below. Discord's arms trembled and he panted, Oh, that was intense. He watched the rainbow fly around, back to the ground where the shards had landed. It hit the shards and glowed briefly before dying out. Arrivederci, rainbow, he said, tossing up a salute before vanishing in a flash of light. Luna and Rosas appeared on the horizon, the former diving at Celestia. Luna's horn glowed as she grabbed Celestia with her magic, slowing her descent. She set Celestia down on the cracked ground and nudged her. Celestia? Celestia's eyes flared open. She bolted to her hose, head darting around. The rainbow! What happened to it? Rosas landed near the alicorns. Her inferior wings glowed, and the shattered remains of the casing floated over. He destroyed it, she said, head drooping. Celestia's eyes widened and mouth dropped. No, 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 no! She stomped the ground. It can't be destroyed! It's to fight the Smooths! Make it leaving! The Griffin Empire and a dozen other things! Her eyes focused on the shards as she took them for rose dust. Luna glanced at Celestia. But what can we do with these shards? Celestia paced back and forth, pink mane swishing about. The rainbow vanished into the shards. Maybe, if we reinforce them, we can use it again. She struck a hoof onto the ground, cracking the dirt. Yes! Rosas looked at the flying shards. But even if you can, how will that help? Discord already beat the rainbow of light. Celestia looked to her. You're right. Even with my magic, it simply wasn't enough. She tossed her head back and whinnied. Oh, if only I had more power! There was silence among the three for a few minutes before Luna spoke up. Well, can I help? She paused as Rosas and Celestia looked at her. I guess not, she murmured, kicking the ground. Celestia ran up, wrapping her forelegs around Luna's neck and hugging her. Luna, that's brilliant! She brought the shards up in front of her. Why make one rainbow of light when we can make two sets? One for each of us. Rosas shouted out to the pair. Luna, that is brilliant. Her expression suddenly fell. But how? And where can you reinforce this? Luna looked slowly to the west. The Dragon clans, she stated. They're Smith's neck with Minicus, and we have at least a clan leader on our side. She looked back at Celestia Rosas. Besides, if Equestria falls, Discord won't stay here for long. He'll send out other lands and destroy them too. Celestia's wings unfurled. Then what are we waiting for? She hopped into the air, but landed just as quickly on shaky legs. Ow! Luna concentrated, and Celestia began flowing. You are in no condition to fly to the clans, she admonished. We have to get you to the Princess Pony's Festa Hill, then to the west. It is a 2-day journey there, and you have to last. Rosas turned and began galloping off. The flutter pony still held the line, she shouted over her shoulder, causing her wings beating as she rose through the air. Just be quick about it! It was over a week before we returned, Celestia said, voice somewhat hoarse. She cleared her throat. By then, the flutter ponies had taken the brunt of Discard's wrath, and Paradise City had been heavily damaged. Luna and I used the elements of harmony to seal him into stone, and we placed him at the entrance of the heads maze we passed before entering the Dream Valley Memorial. She sighed. I wish I could simply smash it, but I don't know if that would kill him or release him. Megan hugged Celestia for a moment. So Morning Glory he is in some sort of walking coma? And Celestia's nodded as she closed her eyes. I hope they get here. I need to see her. And Rose does. I have to make things right between us. Celestia let out a small smile that played about her lips. In her heart, she doesn't blame you, Megan. I know it. Twilight cleared her throat, catching Celestia and Megan's attention. Pardon me, Princess, but with the elements now out of your control, what about the seal over Discord? Is it affected in any way? Spike went to her. Don't worry, Twilight. With you in the gang, no way Discord could stand a chance. The princess shrugged. A noble sentiment, Spike, but I'm not sure. She locked eyes with Twilight. I wish I could tell you, Twilight. I haven't had a real chance to check on magically for a while. She looked up in the direction of Canterlot, far in the distance. When we get back, I'll do that first thing. She nodded to Twilight. Thank you, Twilight. That was an excellent idea. Twilight's cheeks flushed slightly. Thank you, Princess, she said, hopping up and down around Megan and Celestia, knocking Spike off her back. Megan snoring. Traitors, Pratt, she muttered, smirking. You have no idea, Spike muttered, rubbing his tail. Twilight stopped her bouncing and glared at Megan, but commotion from Danny drew their attention. Twilight glanced over as Dash rolled on the ground, clutching her sides with 4 legs. Luna stood behind Danny, her own cheeks a bright purple. What the hey is going on over there? Danny's wheelchair rolled to a stop near a half-buried log. He locked the wheels as they glowed brightly in the sunlight. Luna? Luna? Luna's head craned over to her side. Yes, Donnie. He rolled over the log, the chair remaining level as he easily overcame the obstacle. This is a statement on my wheelchair. Is it permanent? He spun around, a big grin on his face. Because I can get used to this easily. Luna nodded. All magic seems to work fine on Earth, so it should be no problem there. Her eyebrows furrowed. I'm surprised technology hasn't progressed to where you need the wheelchair. To be honest, especially with those visitors from the stars you told us about. Those metal men? Danny shrugged. The Autobots? He leaned back and looked at the sky. Yeah, we get a lot of nice stuff from them, but most of it was military gear for the longest time. There's a lot of medical advances coming through, but a lot of it's hideously expensive. He grabbed the wheels and rocked back and forth. Right now, this looks pretty well as a compromise. He smiled. Thanks, old friend. Dash floated over and looked Danny over. She hesitated for a moment. Danny, right? At his nod, she continued. So, what happened? Luna's mane flared, but Danny held up a hand. It's all right, Luna. He looked himself over. You mean, why am I in a wheelchair? As she was nodding, Danny shrugged. For the moment, let's just say I rolled the dice one too many times in the Kingdom Snake Eyes. First, I tried up and placed a hoof gently on Danny's arms. Her eyes burned one shed tears. I'm so sorry, she said. Is there anything we could do to help? Danny swallowed and placed his other hand over Fluttershy's hoof, squeezing it gently. I had no worries, he whispered. He glanced over his shoulder at Luna. What happened was bad, but if I did act what I did, a close friend wouldn't be here today. So, I don't regret what happened. Luna leaned forward and Nancy nuzzled Danny's shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. Danny patted her cheek. You're welcome. He slowly leaned forward, pulling the photo album out from underneath his wheelchair. Lyle man, who would like to see some embarrassing photos of Celestia? He announced, holding the album up. Rarity, Pinkie Pie, and Applejack suddenly appeared around Danny and Luna. Give me a seat! Give me a seat! A piece, a piece, a piece, a piece, a piece, a piece, cigarette, top of the bottom! She asked, his head twisting around as he flashed puppy dog eyes at Danny. Luna rubbed her forehead with her hoof. Danny, I'm not so sure that this is a good idea. Danny smirked it over on the album. I'll save my embarrassing pictures of you for later. But right now, I think they should see the sillier side of Celestia. He licked his lips and cracked his jaw. I try to say that 5 times fast. He pulled out a photo of a younger, smaller Celestia, with only a little larger than the pair of ponies she stood in front of. Her mane had been dyed black, and thick eyeliner drawn under her eyes. She wore fishnets on all 4 legs and heavy chains around her neck. Danny waved the picture about, letting the ponies get a good look at it. This is Celestia after discovering a music act on Earth. Celestia stopped her host and growled. Magic Star, Wind Whistler, you don't understand, she cried. The cure is my life. They speak to me and my soul. Dash fell back, rolling on the ground and clutching her sides with laughter. She wiped her eyes and struggled to her hooves, only to fall back down when she glanced at the picture again. She took several deep breaths before rising once more, this time saying outright, Oh my gosh! She blurted out, Princess Celestia was... Ah! A shadow fell upon Dash as she looked up, spotting Celestia standing there. She scrambled back, swallowing as sweat broke out of her face. Princess! You're looking, rather not as odd in this picture. She suddenly hopped up and flew behind Danny in his wheelchair, peeking out over his armrest. Celestia groaned as the picture floated up to her. She took one look and rolled her eyes. Oh, sweet herd, I remember this one. She sent the picture back to the album. Danny, why did you do that? She asked, her voice pitching higher than normal. Danny wagged a finger at her. I'm your adopted uncle, Celestia. It's my job to embarrass you. He waved at the princess ponies as they stood around Mike, Michelle, Daniel chatting. Besides, most of us here already know about your early days, he told his head. Or shall I show them the princess bride pants that you and Luna put on? Luna's eyes widened as he hunkered down. Daddy, please! But a moment later, she shot back up. Spike her in the process! Celestia glanced up as 2 large blobs in the sky began resolving themselves. And you brought company. She looked to her sister and grinned. Would you care to do the honors, Luna? Luna nodded and stepped around Danny, making sure he was in the back before raising a hoof and opening her mouth. Attention, everyone! King Spiker and the Old shall be arriving momentarily. Please gather around the edge as Celestia senses another dragon accompanying him. Thank you! Everyone picked themselves up and began moving around to the edge of the field, closer to the edge of the areas of Ponyville. A few minutes later, 2 dragons dropped out of the sky. An ancient dragon, towering over everything around, landed, shaking everything and everyone around his massive body. His long, sinewy neck stretched out and his mouth open, letting loose a geyser of flame. His back and limbs were a deep violet, while his body and face were a lighter purple. Green spines trailed around his back, starting from the top of his head and going down to his tail. The second dragon slithered through the air, a long, serpentine creature. It circled around in the air before touching down, making almost no sound save for her raspy breathing. Her hands, though small compared to the rest of her body, were still large enough to grab an alicorn easily. Her body long and was a deep blue, almost black, with bright red eyes that stood out all the more. Mike stood at the 2 dragons, mouth hanging open and heartbeat almost audible. He glanced over to Michelle and Daniel as they too stood there, in shock with open mouths. He stood in front of them and sucked in a breath. Stay behind me, he whispered. He looked up at the larger dragon and shuddered. Oh my god. It's a dragon! Let's use it! Brace fire! It's a dragon! Megan stepped over to Mike, Michelle, Danielle, eyes starting back and forth between the 2. She held her rifle in a 2-handed grip, knuckles wide. She stood by Mike's side, in front of their children. She looked at Celestia and Luna as the 2 alicorns stood still, neither one moving so much as a feather. All right, Mike. Celestia and Luna look rather calm here. She swallowed and sucked in a deep breath before continuing. I don't think they're going to harm us. Danielle blinked and grabbed her mother's arm. I really hope you're right, Mom. 'cause I don't think your rival's gonna put a date in his scales. The smaller dragon focused her jewel eyes on Megan and spoke, her voice like muted thunder. Indeed not. She placed her hand on her body. I am Meilong, leader of the Eastern clan, and that, she waved at the huge dragon, that is Spycora the Old, king of the dragon clans. She snorted, blowing out a long stream of smoke. He has always been a show-off. Fluttershy's eye widened. He is? She pawed at the ground, snoring. He's just showing off and being some jerk like that when he doesn't have to? She looked at Danielle and Michelle as they stood behind Megan and Mike. He's scaring those children for no reason. She tilted her head down and eyes staring. How dare he? And with that, she spread before spreading her wings out and leaping into the air. Verity guessed as Fluttershy flew up to Spycora's face. Oh no, she shouted. I think Fluttershy's going to give it the stare. She held the foreleg to her head. This is not good. Molly looked over to where she stood, by Danny and Tiffany. The what? The stare? What's he going to try to do? Give her the evil eye? She can stay up in his mouth! Twilight glanced up at Celestia. Princess, Fluttershy stared down that red dragon in the cave, and that cockatrice in the Everfree Forest. She shook her head. Spycora is larger, but her stare makes almost anyone wilt under it. Luna spoke up. I read those reports, Twilight Sparkle. The dragon was the youngest son of Jormund the Red, another council member. She glanced about as Twilight out the corner of her eye smirked. For a dragon, he was a mere baby at only 100 years old. She looked up at Fluttershy. Now a large dart hovered at Spycora's snout. Spycora is older than Celestia and I. Fluttershy hovered in front of Spycora and crossed her forelegs. Listen, mister, she shouted, getting his attention. I know you're big and powerful, but that doesn't give you any right to thrust about here, scaring kids and acting like you're all powerful. Now, you turn right around and apologize to everyone for being such a mean. She flew closer, hovering close to his eye. You got that? Spycora snorted. He covered his snout with her hand, but laughter quickly burst forth. He leaned to the side, his laughter echoing from smiles. Oh, what a lovely glare you have, young filly. He straightened up, wiping his eyes before staring right back at Fluttershy. You must be the one who stirred down Torment's son a few months ago. I had quite a laugh when he flew back, tail between his legs. Oh, but his father gave him such a scolding. He leaned in close, held up his hand to his snout as if to part some great secret. It's not nice for dragons to take naps in Equestria, you see. Fluttershy's eyes widened, slowly rolled back into the head. Her wings snapped shut, and her legs kicked in the air as he suddenly plummeted to the ground. Spycora's hand snaked out, catching her. Your heart was in the right place, he murmured, placing her next to the group to the ground. But I'm afraid it's necessary to hold a show of dominance for the outcasts. Celestia and Luna stepped forward, bowing their heads. Greetings, King Spycorin, Celestia said, raising her head. May your scales remain intact, and your horn immense. She motioned to the side in the hole. I do ask that you be careful, considering the hole in space. It is the only way for some very special people to make it home. Spycora bowed at the waist. Greetings to you, Princesses Celestia and Luna. May your feathers remain clean and your horns shiny. A snort of laughter escaped him. These greetings are rather stupid, wouldn't you agree? As for the hole, it shall not be harmed during my judgment. Speaking of which... He straightened back up and turned, facing the Everfree Forest. Come out, outcast! I shall give you a fair chance to be heard for your actions! Down below, Verity turned to Applejack. His horn must be huge! Her eyes lit up. So many gems, gold, and diamonds! She trailed off, a faraway look in her eyes, and a slight bit of drool coming from her mouth. Meilong chuckled. Spycora the Old has no hoard. The king of the dragon clans relinquishes everything he or she has collected. She raised her hand and clenched it to her fist, pounding the ground and shaking everyone around. If they have a hoard to louse about on, how can they support the dragon clans? Mike slowly stepped away from Danielle, Michelle, and Megan and walked up to Meilong. So, dragons here have hoards? He flinched as she turned to stare at him. I was just wondering, ma'am. Meilong chuckled and spread her arms out. I apologize if I startled you. Mike bowed at the waist. Mock razors, ma'am. It's a pleasure to meet you. Meilong returned the bow. And a pleasure for me. Tell me, you are a human, correct? from over the rainbow and earth? At his nod, she stroked her chin, brusking her whiskers. Is one named Megan among you? Megan stepped forward and stood beside her husband. She curtsied nodding to Mei Long. My name is Megan. May I ask how you know of me? Mei Long focused on Megan. She slithered forward, came within a few feet of her. She grinned as Megan and Mike both stood there, holding hands. An old friend told me about you, and if you stand there like that, then the tales he told me were true. Her gaze flickered over to Spiker, and I believe we should pay attention to this. Spiker had walked up to the Everfree's edge, stopping. The green dragon suddenly burst from the canopy and reared back. His mouth opened, and a long stream of jet flame jetted forth, striking Spiker in the chest. Spiker snorted as the flame lit his scales, doing little more than singeing them. Is this the best you have? My last birthday cake had hotter flames! He hopped up, sailing over the Everfree and landing right next to the green dragon, flames still licking his scales. He stood over the green dragon, it barely reaching his breastbone. Such a young pup we have! He reached out and grabbed the dragon's mouth, clamping it shut with one hand. The dragon hopped up, but Spiker had tugged, sending him back to the forest with a crash and laying waste to dozens of trees. Now that we have established that I can rip your head from your body with a tug, will you come with me peacefully? The green dragon grunted, but remained still. Spiker nodded and jumped up, flying over the Everfree and landing back in the clearing. He looked at the green dragon with cold eyes. Try anything, and you die! With that, he let go. The green dragon stabbed a talon at Spike at Twilight. But the young one stole from our horde! He bellowed, and they brushed it off as nothing! Spiker had turned and looked down at Spike at Twilight, crossing his arms. Is this true, young one? Speak the whole truth, too. Leave nothing out. Spike at Twilight walked forward. Spike looked up, and at Spiker and the green dragon. He filled his hums. Well, I took some gems, but I didn't know they were his. He kicked to the ground. Twilight and I had a bad argument, and I had run off into the Everfree forest. Like some brat. Twilight spoke up. Spike, you weren't that bad. She looked to Spiker and, Your Majesty, Spike is a young dragon and did not know any better. But if there's some party to blame, it's me. Spiker glanced at the two. His nostrils flared and he cocked his head to his side. That smell. He shook it off. Later. He looked to the young green dragon. Well, they ran off. Did you interact with them at all, beyond spewing your smoke all over Equestria? Randy stepped forward. Your Majesty, she shouted, waving a hoof. Yes. 2 days later, Spike, Twilight, and I went to the cavern to offer restitution. She cocked her aside. I don't mean to sound too modest, but I had a rather good talent for finding gems. Spiker laughed. Ha ha ha! If your dress is any indication, you understate your prowess. Randy blushed. Oh, why, thank you. Then, anyway, we offered not only to replace the gem Spike ate, but to include 3 carts full of the tastiest gems I could find. She snorted. I could be wrong, but I think that's rather fair, don't you? Instead, he spewed his smoke all over and nearly killed Spike, Twilight, and even Rainbow Dash. She stuck her lower lip out. Can you believe it? Spiker looked at the green dragon, who was now ducking his head. That is rather generous for an honest mistake. Wouldn't you agree? The green dragon growled and blew smoke from his nostrils, but nodded. Spiker had spread his arms wide. Young one, I give you 1 week to give this outcast what you promised. If, by the end of the week, you have not delivered, then you shall fly to the Dragonlands and seek an audience with me. He placed a hand on his chest. I shall listen if you come. The green dragon did his head low. Thank you. He looked at Spike against his fist. 1 week. And with that, he turned and flew up over the Everfree, landing in a large hole in the cavity above his cave. Spiker had turned to look down. His eyes shifted back before they landed on Megan. He motioned to her. Excuse me, but you have been silent throughout this exchange. He rubbed his chin and chuckled. I am eager to hear your opinion on such matters. Do not worry, either. I swear no harm shall come to you. Megan's head darted around as she waved at herself. Mine? At his nod, she squeezed Mike's hand before letting go. Stepping forward through the crowd, she dropped to one knee and bent her head. Thank you, Your Majesty. She rose and looked up. I think your judgment was sound. There's a time for being gentle and a time for being strong. Well, this striking, you had to be strong and firm. But you also listened to his side of the story, not just Spike's. She shrugged. I think you did a good job. Spiker smiled and nodded. Thank you, my dear. I am most grateful for your kind words, miss. Megan gasped slightly and faced Ren. Oh, sorry. My name is Megan Reuters, Your Majesty. Spiker had bent down and looked Megan over. He opened his mouth a few times before finally spoke. Megan, you do not know who I am? He suddenly looked himself over. Perhaps not, Megan. I ask you to think back to your youth and... Megan's hand suddenly flew to her mouth as he gasped. Spock! She ran forward, leaning up and looked down. Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God! It's really you? Molly Danny burst forth to Megan's side. Molly helped him down and pointed out. Holy Kylie is him! Danny crossed his arms and shook his head. He rolled up to his foot and tapped it. Man, what have you been eating? He barked to laugh. I can't believe it. Our little Spike is the king of the dragons? Spiker had spread his arms wide and grinned. He was tears straight down his cheek, splashing down the ground. By the pyre, my friends! Oh, this is wonderful! He wiped his eyes and scrouched down, bringing his head right to the ground. How are you? Megan ran forward and spread her arms as far as they could go. She pressed up against his muzzle and leaned on him with the best effort of a hug. I can't believe it, she said, voice hitching slightly. She puckered up and placed the kiss on his muzzle, but spat out a second later. Ugh, tastes like ice. Molly walked up, patted his muzzle, shaking her head. Well, what do you expect from a full-grown dragon? She rubbed her smooth skin. Damn, almost you. Danny joined his siblings and stared at Spiker in his eye. Well, think of all those pranks you, Surprise, and I used to play on everyone else. And now this? His mouth stretched out into a wide grin. Spike, you are boss! Spiker mumbled. Thank you, my friends. His eyes started back and forth, taking them in. But what have you been up to on Earth? Please, tell me all. Megan stepped back and turned around. She waved at Mike, Michelle, and Danielle, who walked up. She stepped to Mike's side. Spiker waved off. For you, Megan, Spike is fine. Megan paused, swallowed, and blinking. Thank you, she said, voice hoarse. She cleared her throat. Spike, this is my husband, Mike, and my two wonderful daughters, Michelle and Danielle. She pointed to each one. I work at a horse ranch, and, well, I write children's books. She leaned forward. They're about Ponyland and Paradise Estate. Spiker had snarled, blowing out a plume of smoke. I take it the comical misadventures of young Spike are one of the main draws of these novels? Megan shook her head. More like the well-meaning Spike who had some common sense more than most ponies, or horses as I renamed them. She sighed to turn around, looking at Celestia and Luna. So, young fellas, now tell me when you were going to let this out? She crossed her arms and tapped her foot. Well? Tiffany and Starburst both snickered as the alicorns bit their lips and brought their wings over to their heads. It wasn't a joke or anything like that, Celestia said. Luna nodded. We just wanted to surprise you, that's all. Pinkie Pie reached behind her and pulled out a handkerchief out of somewhere. She held it up to her nose and blew it loudly as tears cascaded down her eyes. Oh, this is wonderful! Oh, friends reunited after so long! She threw her forelegs in the air and confetti rained down. This calls for a party! Buddy blew a soda confetti. How did she do that? Megan shrugged. Now, clue. She looked at Pinkie. There's a party being held at the library already, Pinkie Pie. We don't need another one. Pinkie suddenly up to the air and gasped. Oh, what? There is never enough parties, Megan! She hopped over and bounced around. Come on! We can hold a reuniting old friends party in addition to your welcome back party! She stood up on her hind legs and placed the forelegs on Megan's shoulders. Please! She pouted. Megan rolled her eyes. Pinkie, all right. We can have another party. She held her index finger. But just one more. Got it? Her pony jumped several feet in the air before galloping off into the race to the library. Rainbow Dash placed a foreleg over her eyes. Oh, she is not going to come down for days now. She looked at Mei Long, then Spiker in. You two even going to fit around the library? Spiker had straightened himself out, stretching into the sky. I can be remarkably compact when I wish to be, he said, winking. He looked at Mei Long. Looks like Jormin will be starting without us. Mei Long slithered around, shaking her head, as you and I both knew he would. She glided up to the air, twisting about. As the princess ponies, Luna, Molly, Danny, Mike, Daniel, Michelle, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, Rarity, Fluttershy, turned and left the field, Spiker had finally focused on Spike. Young one, please come forth. Spike's eyes widened. Me? As Spiker nodded, he slowly walked forward, Twilight by his side. He stopped next to Megan and her family. Am I ever going to be that big? He wondered aloud. Spiker chuckled. Was I ever that small? He bent his long neck down and looked Spike over. Tell me, why do you live amongst the ponies? What is your tale? Spike shrugged. Not much to tell. Twilight has my egg during her entrance exam for the school of gifted unicorns, proving she's the most powerful unicorn in all of Equestria! He pumped the fist in the air at the end. Twilight blushed slightly. Oh, Spike, I'm not that powerful. Spike groaned. But you're the best, Twilight. He looked at Spiker, and not only did she hatch me, but she helped defeat Nightmare Moon, stopped the Nurse Miner, held down attack with her apple bucket, and he held back the back of his hand to his mouth. She grew a mustache on me. Spiker's mouth dropped. Such power! He exclaimed. A real mustache! Spike nodded. It was so cool! Spiker looked past Twilight and focused on Celestia. Tell me, old friend, where did you find his egg? Celestia looked up, cocked an eyebrow before speaking. I found it about 50 years ago, in the ruins of the nest of Dargoth. She looked to the ground and sighed. The earth has left a little. Spiker bared his fangs and clenched his wrist. I remember all too well what happened there, Celestia. We let the bears roam far too south, and the Dargoth paid the price. Twilight looked to Spike, then to Celestia by Sporcoran. Your Majesty, is there something about Spike I should know about? She dug a hoof into the bare lip. I mean, if it's... Spiker laid her hoof. There is nothing wrong, Twilight. He placed his hand on his chest. I am sorry if I worried you. Please, let us go to the party. I feel the pink one has things in full swing by now. And with that, he spread his wings out and flew straight up, soaring over to Ponyville. Megan ran up to Celestia as she turned and began trying down the path. She slowed down as she caught up to the alicorn, and the two watched side by side. It was good to see Spike, Megan said. She looked at Celestia and frowned. Why is it? Celestia shook her head. I'm worried about Rose Dust, Morning Glory, and her family. She looked up to the sun. Rose Dust might not have come, but I know Sparkling Dawn and Blazy Day wanted to take Morning Glory to the party. Megan nodded and patted Celestia on her crest. Don't worry, Celestia. I have a feeling they'll be here. She stopped to look down. I hope. Trixie eyed the four-odd pony standing in front of her hovel. She raised the hoof and pointed out across the Everfree. The Ponyville is on the edge of the Everfree Forest, she said. Simply turn left while you're leaving here and stick to the edge. She looked down at the cross from her wings and sighed. I'm sorry. Who are you? Rose Dust grumbled and flapped her wings. Yes, I suppose 1,300 years is a long time. She reared back and spread her forelegs. I am Queen Rose Dust of Butter Valley. She dropped back down onto all fours and motioned to her left with her head. And this is Morning Glory, her husband Sparkling Dawn, and their son Blazing Day. We are old friends of Princesses Celestia and Luna. Trixie's eyes bugged out. The princesses! She dropped down, touching her forehead to the ground. I had no idea. Rose Dust placed her hoof on her shoulder and smiled. It's quite all right, Trixie. We thank you for directions. Trixie slowly rose. You're welcome, Queen Rose Dust. She glanced over at Morning Glory as she stood there, slowly waving back and forth on her hooves. Pardon me, but is she all right? She squinted. Her coat is rather more gray than normal. Sparkling Dawn sighed. He rubbed the foreleg on Morning Glory's back. She was hurt a long time ago, and she never recovered. We're going to Ponyfield to see an old friend, and hopefully she'll feel better. Trixie bit her lip and furrowed her eyebrows. She suddenly reared back. Well then, what as the great Trixie performs a feat of magic? She held her forelegs out, and with a puff of smoke, a bouquet of flowers appeared. She dropped back down and laid them at Morning Glory's hooves. Someone with friends and family shouldn't be sad. She looked at Sparkling Dawn. I hope whoever's in Ponyville can help her. Sparkling Dawn smiled and bent down. He gently gripped the bouquet in his teeth and nodded his thanks to Trixie before turning. He and Blazing Day stood on either side of Morning Glory and began guiding her way down the dirt path, away from Hoofy Finn. Rose Dust glanced at her family and trotted away. Thank you, Trixie, she said, looking back at the blue unicorn before turning around and catching up with the other fighter ponies. Trixie waved a hoof at them before turning and going back inside. She walked through the living room into the kitchen. On the next corkboard was a calendar and a date circled in bright red. 11 days, she announced, looking at the calendar. Look out, ponies!